Santa's coming to town.
Santa! Oh my God!
This is Christmas, the season of perpetual hope.
We are Santa's elves, building Santa's shelves.
Tinsel, not just for decoration.
Look what you did, you little jerk.
If you look for it, I've got a sneaky feeling you'll find that love actually is all around.
This is a full-blown 4-alarm holiday emergency here. We're gonna press on, and we're gonna have the happiest Christmas since Bing Crosby tap danced with Danny Kaye. And when Santa squeezes his fat white down that chimney tonight, he's gonna find the jolliest bunch of this side of the nut house. Come on!
And I think you're beautiful, and I feel really warm when I am around you, and my tongue swells up. So, do you want to go eat food?
I feel it in my fingers, I feel it in my toes.
Sometimes, the most real things in the world are the things we can't see.
I'm dreaming of a white Christmas.
It's Christmas Eve. It's the one night of the year when we all act a little nicer. We smile a little easier. We share a little more.
I want an official red undercover next to 2 inch earrings while Aaron.
You're a 1,200-year-old elf?
You look pretty good for your age.
Thanks, but I'm seeing someone in wrapping.
Why are you smiling like?
I just like to smile. Smiling's my favorite.
I can't seem to find my toothbrush, so I'll pick one up when I go out today. Other than that, I'm in good shape. Okay, Dad. Let's do it. Let's go get the kicked out of us by now.
Yes! Oh, silent majesty of a winter's morn, clean, cool chill of the holiday air, no soul in his bathrobe, emptying a chemical toilet in my sewer.
Look, Daddy, teacher says every time a bell rings, an angel gets his wings. Good night, Kevin.
It came without ribbons. It came without tags. It came without packages, boxes, or bags.
Maybe Christmas, he thought, doesn't come from a star. Maybe Christmas, perhaps.
Merry Christmas, filthy animal. And a Happy New Year.
We might as well be honest with each other. Just tell me, did you sleep with her?
Okay, I slept with her. You happy?
Did you say, am I happy?
You gotta be.
Oh God, here he comes. Oh, Jasper, what's the story with you two anyway? I'm head over heels, you know?
Everybody, may I introduce the newly engaged Jasper Blue?
I hate my horrible life.
Iris and Amanda are in exactly the same place.
Where do I want to go? By myself? Depressed at Christmas.
Just 6,000 miles apart.
Home exchange. We switch houses, cars, everything. Bingo. I need you to answer this. Are there any men in your town? Perfect.
We're on our way to the New Jerusalem.
I'm here. I'm here.
As one door closes,
That'll be interesting.
another one opens.
Oh.
Hi.
Hello. I'm Miles. I'm Graham. Iris' brother. Do you want some company?
Yeah, love some.
Excuse me? Okay, sorry about that. Boob grace. That was accidental.
You know, Graham, I just broke up with someone.
And considering that you showed up and you're insanely good looking and probably won't remember me anyway, I'm thinking we should have sex. If you want.
Is that a trick question?
Seems I had it all wrong. It turns out you'll go somewhere new and meet people who make you feel worthwhile again.
It's Christmas Eve, and we are going to celebrate being young and being alive.
Iris, hi, it's Amanda.
Can you hold on for a second? perfect. Sorry, that was Amanda.
Find out how she is.
Can you tell him I'm good?
How's she doing?
What's he been up to?
Hold, please.
I can't believe that you have had sex with the woman staying in my house.
He told you that?
Oh my God.
Oh my God!
The Holiday.
I can't believe you've had sex with Amanda. She's been there 5 days. And then you meet her and immediately get into her knickers.
Still me.
All right, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Back to the Blockbuster with your host Gaius and Jackson. Jackson's not with us today; he's still busy with schooling, but he only has, as of this day, the day before Thanksgiving here in the U.S., 3 more weeks. So he'll be back at a full schedule with us 3 weeks from now. He's really looking forward to it, and we're looking forward to having him back on a more regular schedule. He will be recording the 10th anniversary for Interstellar with me tomorrow, before my Thanksgiving festivities, so he's getting that in, and possibly an interview with the Vampire Anniversary episode too. We're still working on that, and then we have a couple of Christmas episodes planned with him as well. But in the meantime, this is our official first episode for our Christmas themed movies on Back to the Blockbuster. We did a little bit of this last year. In favor of Jackson, we did a little bit more unconventional Christmas movies. We covered Black Christmas last year, Gremlins. We did Home Alone, which is a little bit more conventional because we hadn't covered that on the show before. But this year, we're going to try to mix it up a little bit with some of his and a little bit more traditional Christmas movies this time around. The first being, for this one, a Christmas rom-com, which a lot of people seem to enjoy. I put this up on our story as one of the choices that we wanted to cover for our Christmas themed episodes. It was this one, Love Actually, and This Christmas. A couple of other people were interested in those other movies as well. But William of Film Star Reviews was the first one to message me about a little movie called The Holiday, and that he wanted to cover it. So welcome, William. Thank you for joining me for talking about The Holiday. I think everyone might be pleasantly surprised here as both talking about it, but I think we fall in the same camp that we both really enjoy this movie, and we are not ashamed of it.
Oh, I have absolutely no shame. First of all, hello everybody. William here from Snob Reviews. I have no shame saying that I love this movie. When you look at the cast, top to bottom, there's not a wonder that it worked. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not a wonder that it worked. Before I get started with all that, though, you said I needed to plug everything at the top here.
Yes. Do yourself, plug yourself, whatever you want to talk about. If you have anything that we should look forward to, whatever you want to say, this is your time.
So let's start with, guys should follow me everywhere at Film Snob Reviews, YouTube, Blue Sky, Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff.
All the
guys has been a follower, and we've followed him for many years. He's been on our podcast before, but we really need help with the YouTube channel. We need help with, everything. You listen to our podcast. It's great. We have a top 10 list. Well, actually, it's not even a top 10 list. It's a ranking list. We're going to rank our top 10 favorite A24 movies as suggested by my entire staff. That's coming up soon. And we have our top 10 of the year coming up soon. So look forward to that. Subscribe to the YouTube channel to find all of that. Like I said, Film Snob Reviews on all of the social medias, of which there are way too many nowadays. But yeah, let's get started with some conversation about this great movie from 2006.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to believe that it came out to that. So I have to say I did not see this in 2006. I did not see it when it came out in the theaters. At the time, I had a bunch of girlfriends who had seen it, and they, of course, couldn't stop talking about it. And I don't know when I realized that it was now considered a Christmas go-to Christmas classic. I don't remember where I pinpointed it, but I do remember someone telling me, "All right, you have to watch it. If you're going to include some of these other movies in your annual watch." And by the way, your annual watch can be however long you want to make it, whether it's a couple of weeks during December that lead up to Christmas, or some people start right after Thanksgiving, so they almost have a full month of Christmas movies. Wherever it is in your rotation, I was told that it needs to be in there, so I finally watched it. I think for the first time, maybe 10 years ago, maybe a little over that. and I was completely surprised by how much I enjoyed it. I was a little concerned when I first started it, then by how long it was, because I was like, for a romantic comedy, it felt like a long time. It's 136 minutes, in case anyone was wondering, but it breezes by pretty quickly. It doesn't feel slow. It's paced pretty well, and it's bouncing between these two stories that are different but similar in in ways too. About the two people who have like switched locations for this particular film, and each character has something to there's something to enjoy about each person. Everyone's a little different. I think no matter what kind of viewer you are, you can finally find yourself in some of these people or situations. I think that's what makes it relatable. I had a friend debate with me about whether or not it's a true Christmas movie, because it does have Christmas songs and it is called The Holiday. I guess because it doesn't like visually exude so much Christmas stuff. Like you see a lot of it in the background. There's decorations and stuff like that, but it's not plastered everywhere like Home Alone per se. But I still think it has the feeling and that you need to get from a Christmas film and a Christmas rom-com. So I will push back on saying that it's not quite a Christmas movie. I think it's earned its place as one.
I think you're absolutely correct. It is a Christmas movie, but more so than anything, it's a holiday movie because there's even hints of Hanukkah in the movie
Oh yeah,
as well.
that's true.
With Albert and his friends and things like that. And so yeah, I think it is a holiday movie, but it's not overtly Christmas, which is why I like it even more because, as we previously discussed, I am the Grinch who stole Christmas. I'm not a big Christmas guy. You know what I mean? I hate Christmas music. I don't know. It's not for me. But
I was told this before we got on that he's not even a Christmas person. As he said, probably best himself, he labeled himself the Grinch. So you might find it surprising that this is the movie that he chose to go with. But I mean, he may not be a sucker for Christmas, but he's a sucker for a holiday romantic comedy. And I think that's pretty cool. That when people were like, well, I was surprised. Yeah, I'm also pleasantly surprised when people were like, "Hey, I want to talk about this one or this particular movie." This one surprised me and pleasantly surprised me because I wasn't expecting it. But I totally went with it because like no one full on says that like, "Hey, I love the holiday," unless they really love it. They're not half-assing loving the holiday. So I that's what I enjoyed about you. You're going like, all right, let's do this. For people that don't know, like you said, it came out in 2006. It's a film written, produced, and directed by Nancy Myers, and it was filmed in both California and England, starring Kate Winslet and Cameron Diaz as Iris and Amanda, two lovelorn women from opposite sides of the Atlantic Ocean who arrange a home exchange to escape heartbreak during the Christmas and holiday season. Jude Law and Jack Black are cast as the film's leading men, Graham and Miles. And when the film was released on November 29th, 2006, it was a box office success, at least considered worldwide. It grossed $205 million globally on an $85 million budget. Received mixed reviews from critics at the time of its release, but has gone on to become a cult classic. And as we mentioned earlier, a staple of the holiday season. So do you remember when you actually first saw the movie?
Yeah, so funny thing, I saw it holiday season 2008, so it wasn't when it came out. And it was because I was gearing up for, I guess I was with a girl that, I was interested in. We were checking out some holiday rom-coms, and she suggested Love Actually. And I was like, well, I guess we'll watch this one. And I picked The Holiday. So we were at the video store. It was a Hastings, of all places. And we rented the movies. We watched Love Actually. I'm not a huge fan of Love Actually.
Oh, I do like that one too, though.
It's a good one, but like
it tugs at the heartstrings for sure.
Yeah, that one's a little bit too. How do I put this? That one's too sentimental for me.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like it's like, oh yeah, and some of the characters are kind of despicable.
That is true.
Here there's only one true villain in The Holiday, and that's Rupert Sewell. Piece of garbage.
Who treats our Kate Winslet like garbage.
Listen, anytime you treat the Queen with disrespect, I'm coming for you.
Yeah, there you go.
Because if you know anything about me and you've ever been around film snobs, you guys know Kate Winslet is my favorite actress. She's my favorite of all time. She's in my favorite movie of all time. So anything she's in, I want to watch. And that's what drew me to it at the video store, was that she was in it. And I've never been a Cameron Diaz supporter. I'm not a fan. And that's mainly because I don't find her to be all that talented an actress. but she's really good here at just being, how do I put this? The opposite of what she normally is. Normally, they cast her as this confident, sexy, blonde bombshell. And here,
Yeah.
she's just sort of a nutbag. She's crazy. Do you know what I mean? She's an absolutely insane woman. And it totally works for her. And I adore that they did that. But yeah, that's where I first came upon it was Christmas '08. Pleasant surprise. Loved it. I'll go into the reasons why as we discuss because there's a lot to get through. So, but yeah,
Yeah.
that's when I first stumbled upon this great Christmas classic.
Yeah, the thing that always surprised me about Kate Winslet being in this and what stood out to me is that it didn't seem like a movie that she would do, I guess. I mean, and of course she's done a lot of different things since then. Like, this is someone that's popped up in like Virgin movies and stuff like that now. Like, but she up to that point have been in largely like dramas and more what you would consider like prestige stuff before she did The Holiday. So that's what surprised me the most about her participation in it. And then I was really interested in the whole like concept of a pairing because the pairing of like Jude Law and Cameron Diaz, that makes sense to me because they're both very good looking people and that on paper makes sense. I was more intrigued by what they were going to try to do with the Jack Black Kate Winslet pairing because I was like, all right, that's a tough sell maybe to some, but what it ends up being is like it feels more like a friendship, but you're also like, hey, you can see it developing into something more as it progresses. And maybe if you don't end the film thinking like, oh, I totally buy them as a romantic pairing, you might think like, hey, maybe if I watch it a couple more times, or maybe if I just think about this a bit more, there's something there that like she finds something very endearing in him. And it's the very definition of finding that person who she's intrigued by his sense of humor and his honesty, and then I think she's looking for someone that's completely different from Rosito's character, who is not him and who treated her very poorly. So that story always interests me the most, and I do like how they connect the two, having Jude Law's character be related to Kate Winslet's character, and that's the kind of the link between the two, other than the house exchange. I do like that stuff, and I actually do enjoy the Cameron Diaz and Jude Law pairing as well because it offers up its own interesting like story beats and becomes more than just two attractive people who are hooking up. It becomes something bigger than that. But yeah, that's what intrigued me about it the most. And I still, when I watch it, I think I learned to like more about the Kate Winslet Jack Black pairing more every time I watch it because I think you have one really good actress selling this relationship, and Jack Black playing someone a bit more subdued than he normally does. That's always intrigues me to me, like a little bit. Oh, like he's not a completely zany. Like he has moments where he gets a little quieter than
he's still doing the
stuff.
skibbity do stuff. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that's true. A little bit more subdued than he normally is.
Yeah, that's fair.
Maybe because he's in the presence of a lady.
Maybe. I think what draws you to that relationship, the Winslet and Black one, those two characters don't feel like they fit, but they do. But I think the added element of Arthur, played by Eli Wallach, really helps establish like Jack Black's character is a good guy, man. He's just a good guy. And Shannon Sossamon puts him through the ringer. To be fair, I would love to be put through the ringer by Shannon Sossamon. So I get it.
Yeah, she certainly was a moment back there. I can always forget about her. Like, in the early 2000s, she was a moment for sure.
She's in
A Knight's
one of
Tale,
my
Rules
favorite movies.
Rules of Attraction.
Yeah. She's in one of my favorite movies of the mid 2000s, actually. She's in Risk Cutters, A Love Story, which I'm a big fan of.
I have not seen that, but I've heard it's good, though. I've heard it's pretty good.
It's fantastic, man. It's her, Patrick Fugit, and what's that character actor's name? Who's been in like everything. Seamus. What is it?
Let me see if I can look it up.
Now it's gonna hurt my feelings if I don't get it. There it is. Shea Wiggum.
There you go.
Shea Wiggum. Yeah, they're all in this, and that's a great little weird mid 2000s indie as well. But back to The Holiday, I like that you mentioned Diaz and Jude Law's chemistry, because what I love about that character is what they did with him as an actual character, giving him these bigger stakes than just being a super handsome, rugged single guy.
Yeah.
Are we spoilering? Are we doing that?
No, yeah. It came out in 2006. So if you guys haven't seen it, here's
Well,
your fair warning.
making him a widower was like a great choice because now you're sympathetic to him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they sort of set that up where he's on the phone with these women the whole time he's hanging out with Amanda, which is Cameron Diaz's character, and you're like, is he some sort of playboy? Is he a Casanova? What's going on here? And then you find out it's his little girls, and you just love the character even more.
Yeah, I thought that was a good switch up too, because that moment could have been very could not have been handled as well as it was. Where I love that because of like what he looks like and what Jude Law has actually exuded his entire career. Like he is a very good actor, but he's always kind of actually he was on a show today talking about this movie and The Talented Mr. Ripley, and he used to the reason why he almost turned down The Talented Mr. Ripley because he wanted to push back on. I mean, he was 25 at the time, and he wanted to act. He had more character actor sensibilities and didn't want to be viewed as like the pretty boy. And that is what that character in Talented Mr. Ripley on paper felt like. Now he said like once he really did it and got there, it was much deeper than that, and he wished he wasn't so dumb to like initially think of it as like, oh, they just want me to be like the attractive guy. But he's always going to push back on that, and I do like that he kind of, I think at a certain point played to those strengths, and then it's able to disarm you by like you're shocked by it not being that because of the obvious way they could go with someone like him, and also the obvious way they could go with someone like Cameron Diaz's character too, who I thought was interesting. So I've always liked her, and I think what she does well here is this kind of like self-deprecating kind of humor thing in the beginning, where she also a very beautiful actress too, who was known for that, and I do love that she. I mean, yeah, in other movies she's made fun of herself, but it's stuff like Charlie's Angels where it's a kind of heightened sense of making fun of her persona. Here just playing a normal person who is going through all these things and is in a spot where she needs to get away, and I do like that she is able to fully embrace making fun of herself and so many, and especially when it comes down to everything in the movie, from like being a fish out of water when she first gets there, like all the like very stereotypical things that would happen if you were to go to England, like the whole like driving on the wrong side, the opposite side of the road and all that stuff, like the kind of little things that they make fun of. And I also love that she is coming from this large house in Los Angeles and it has to come to this like tiny little cottage where it's so funny watching the two juxtaposed scenes of them exploring the houses for the first time, where it's like Cameron Diaz is like trying to figure out how to squeeze her clothes into the closet and like where to put her suitcase, and Kate Winslet is just enjoying all the space that she has, like running around the house, like looking in, like here's the bedroom, like here's the office where I could like kind of do work while I'm here, all this other stuff. Like she has so much like space and freedom, but like it's interesting because I think they both probably needed the opposite of which what they were seeking. Like Cameron Diaz, Amanda wanted something that was more quaint and subdued, and Kate Winslet's Iris needed something that was more exciting and open. And so I love that those two kind of like opposites that they showed that early in the movie between the two characters.
I agree with you. I love that scene where Kate Winslet's looking at the wall of DVDs and she pulls Punch Drunk Love off the wall, because that's the movie she pulls off is Punch Drunk Love, and she's about to load it into the DVD player, and then it's like a 7-disc DVD player.
Yeah.
Like, that's a lot.
I can't do this. Yeah.
Or when Jack Black pulls up to the gate and she's trying to open the gate and she. It's so good.
That's that little expletive, and she's like, "Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, you weren't meant to hear that." So charming, so British. I love her.
Yeah.
But I like that you mentioned that because I think you're right. The fish out of water stuff could have been done super cheesy, but what Nancy Meyer does well is she doesn't give us too much of it to where it feels corny or cheesy. She gives us just enough to where we understand time and place. But I gotta tell you, I love the script for this movie. I do.
Yeah.
Some of the dialogue is just great, man. It's just great.
It's well handled, and I like how they kind of like poke fun at the different aspects of their lives, the professions that they work in. All the trailer stuff that they do with Amanda because that's the field she works in. She's been cutting all these movie trailers, and I love. First of all, I love the fake one that they have that has James Franco and Lindsay Lohan starting it.
Yeah.
Which I remember at the time when I first saw the movie, I was like, oh, like it was something I never even heard about before I even saw the film. So like that completely caught me off guard in a really funny kind of way. And I do love when that kind of gets into her psyche a bit when she's going off, trying to explore and do these new things. And like she has the movie trailer guy's voice in her head. And it's like basically setting up her own kind of little movie within her mind, especially, when she meets Jude Law character. She has another moment like that. There's one before that when she's dealing with her own kind of issues with next, which is like Edward Burns' character, who I guess I can't remember if they were dating at the time or dated slightly before this movie came out in real life. But they did date at one point. Edward Burns' character is an asshole, not quite on the level of Kate Winslet's guy. Not that quite of an asshole. I would say that they are both bad men and they both do really awful things. But what Kate Winslet's guy puts her through is this really fucked up manipulation where he knows how, like, kind of, I guess, I don't want to say desperate she is for him, but like what she's willing to like drop everything for him. And he subconsciously knows that, or maybe consciously knows it. And which makes him more of a tool than perhaps Edward Burns' character. And of course we get more of this stuff with Kate Winslet and her guy than we do with Cameron Diaz. And
that's just what I was gonna say. They only
yeah.
give Edward Burns that one scene, and he's really just the catalyst to get Jack Black's character to the house.
Yeah, that's all he is. It's catalyst to get Jack Black's character to the house. It's an excuse for Amanda to want to not be in LA and like be interested in the home switch. So I my friend asked me, should they have had like equal guys in their lives who were completely mistreating him? And I don't think that. I mean, they could have written it that way, but I was fine with how they did that because I think even though there's not much like character development for Edward Burns and Cameron Diaz's relationship, it's very obvious what she needs, and we didn't need like a lot of scenes between those two to determine like what she needed in her life and why she needed to make the switch. And it's also, I guess it's a matter of like who of the two women, this is a ensemble of 4 people, but who of the 2 women is the de facto like almost A character, who's the B character, or is there one in this between Cameron Diaz and Kate Winslet? I've kind of debated that with my friends, and they feel that the Winslet character is way more developed and has more depth than Cameron Diaz's character does. But I think it's just a matter of like the 2 personalities too. I don't know if it's so much more what was on the written page per se.
I think that the A character, if you look at the women, is Kate Winslet, but the A dude is Jude Law. We get a lot more out of him, so he balances it toward Diaz. You know what I mean? Like he's so bad. We understand him so much more. It doesn't really matter how underdeveloped she is. And then with Winslet, we don't really care about how underdeveloped Miles is because we understand that character. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. And I also think you're seeing these people through their respective relationships too. Like, Jack Black's character has, Shannon Sossman, who is kind of treating him in the way that Kate Winslet's guy was treating her. So there's like they can identify on that level in some way too, where all these kind of little side characters are representing different aspects of their lives or someone else's life that they're interacting with. So yeah, I think that stuff is fairly interesting where you are learning through the opposites, that learning who each character is. Like, even though Kate Winslet, I would say, is the A character, I would agree with you in the female story. Jude Law is the A character in the male story, but through those individuals, you get to learn about the 2 people they're playing opposite against, like because of how they're interacting with them, which kind of makes it clear that you don't necessarily, like, just because like one person might be considered the lead doesn't mean that those supporting characters don't like become full by interacting with them. And I think that's what kind of happens with each of our like 2 de facto supporting players, if we have to call them that.
I agree with you. Are we going to talk about the little cameo at the beginning? With Cameron Diaz's coworkers, Ben and Bristol, played by John Krasinski and Catherine Hahn.
Yeah, which kind of threw me out too, because I always didn't because Catherine Hahn, I just know not recently, but I wasn't paying attention back when I first saw the movie.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, that is her. So that was another surprising one.
And that's what's so cool about this movie is you can see these characters sort of as just like, oh, there's just these characters, but then you see these big time actors who are big time now, and you're like, oh shit,
Yeah.
what are they doing in here? And you realize like, oh, this movie is like stacked. And Nancy Meyer's no joke, man. She understands how to balance complex relationships within a romantic comedy. Like she's an excellent writer, and she was a writer
Yeah.
first, but she's also a pretty good director. Like she did It's Complicated as well, and
Which is another
again,
good one.
it's another good one about balancing relationships. You know what I mean?
Oh, that
And
turns 15 soon too. Wow, that's coming up. Yeah. Wow.
yeah, we're
Coming
old,
up.
bro.
Yeah, we are.
And
Jesus.
you know, before this, she had done Something's Gotta Give, which is again about two older characters having to balance relationships, Diane Keaton and Jack Nicholson in that case. And
Yeah.
it's like she just understands how to write characters who are interesting and complex, but also in love. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you look at her writing, she's been writing since the I'd say what early '80s, and
Early 80s, yeah.
all of her movies are, you know, at least at the very least, very fun. You know, as a writer.
Yeah. Yeah, and then a lot of people have accused her of writing things that are similar. The characters are similar. I mean, I know I don't think it's a detriment, but that there is all of Nancy Meyer's movies they're usually very Caucasian, which is fine. I mean that's she's writing what she knows, and I have no problem with that whatsoever. And I think what makes her a good writer though is that she makes these themes in these movies, despite the color of her cast or whatever. These themes are all universal, and she's writing characters first. And I think that's what makes her writing so good. Like she fully fleshes out all of the characters in her films. And I mean, and that's why I think stuff like, Father of the Bride, What Women Want, you mentioned Something's Gotta Give, It's Complicated in this works so well because each character is fully fleshed out, which is probably why I personally don't mind that this movie is 136 minutes because in lesser hands, I would have been like, all right, it's time to wrap this up. This is not really flowing the way it should. But she manages to do that. It manages to make these stories flow in a way where you feel like, you don't feel like, okay, like, you're looking at your watch, you're looking at your phone, like you're invested the entire time while you're watching the movies.
I agree. It's funny you mentioned that because she was actually on the writer's room. She was in the writer's room, and one of the writers was Jumpin' Jack Flash. So.
Oh, there we go. Oh, thanks. Let's see. That's why we have people on here so we can educate.
So it's funny that in slight defense of her, she did help write Jumpin' Jack Flash, which is very much not Caucasian.
Yes. For everyone to know, Whoopi Goldberg, one of her like big kind of breakout comedic roles in film. So in case anyone didn't know, so one of the big staples of a Christmas movie sometimes is, I don't look for these to have like a ton of realism, like for the most part. I was wondering, how do you feel about how, because was one of my friends wanted me to bring this up, how quickly the house exchange is set up where, they are talking to each other online. And I remember my friend when he first saw the movie and she was like, oh, like, when can you come? And she's like, it's tomorrow too soon. And there's kind of like the gap of like, oh, what's she going to say? And you're like, oh, tomorrow's perfect. And my friend was like, what? like I was like, you have to like suspend disbelief a bit. I mean, I know this is like LA to England, and most of us wouldn't make a trip like that in a day. But it's a Christmas movie, so you gotta like suspend some disbelief and just go with
it. If you're thinking about the logistics of this,
then it's the wrong movie.
You're in the wrong movie. You're in the wrong movie. Like, this is a romantic comedy. How dare you use logic and reason to put this together? No, you enjoy the fact that they are in such dire need of an escape that they are willing to go, yeah, tomorrow, let's do this, go, boom, and then they go. You know what I mean? That's just how it has to be for it to make sense in the character's world. Who gives a crap about the logistics of it? Like, I don't care. You know what I mean?
I agree. Yeah. And to emphasize what the dire straits that they're in, Iris is a society columnist for the Daily Telegraph in London. She is in love with her ex-boyfriend Jasper Bloom, we mentioned, who is played by Rufus Sewell. Even though he cheated on her and is currently in a relationship, so she mentions this at the beginning about talking about the different types of love, and then she speaks of unrequited love, and that is kind of what she's in at this point. Jasper, like we mentioned, is kind of an asshole because he keeps her close because he says, oh, they should be remain friends. But honestly, he's doing this to kind of, he's very manipulative dude. And we kind of get that vibe, early on. And it's fairly obvious throughout the movie. This is who he is. Amanda is the owner of a film trailer company in Los Angeles. She breaks up with her film composer boyfriend Ethan, who's played by Edward Burns, we mentioned, after he cheats on her, citing her emotional unavailability as the reason for cheating on her. And that's when she comes across Iris's listing for the cottage on the home swap, and that's how they end up doing that. So those are the dire straits that they're in. Again, Kate Winslet's situation, to me as a viewer, feels a bit more. I guess it depends on who you identify with. I mean, I personally was like, oh, to have someone that is the way he's manipulating her and keeping her close, but just kind of like keeping her close because he's selfish and probably likes the attention that she does provide, because she'll always kind of be there. Or that's what he thinks. I kind of felt that more. I guess it's because even though there is a lot of stuff with Iris that's played for comedy, like when she's crying in the cottage before she does the home swap and she does that thing with the stove, and it's like, oh, that was very serious. What she tries to do with the gas in the stove. But that stuff is kind of played for comedy because she's moping around the house. I feel like, though, for the most part, her stuff is played more serious, and Cameron Diaz's situation is played more for the hijinks of it rather than how serious it is. I don't know if you necessarily agree with that, but
I kind of do. There's an element of classic rom-com, classic screwball comedy within the film as a whole. Because if you look at Arthur's character, he's supposed to have been the man who was a Hollywood screenwriter and helped write a lot of those screwball comedies. And he mentions to Kate Winslet that she has a gravitas, a grit to her, a gumption, as is what he says. Yeah. And what I think is funny is romantic comedies have been doing this since their inception. Touching on serious matters but making them comically funny. You know what I mean? That scene with the stove was reminiscent of the scene in The Apartment where Shirley MacLaine gets her compact back from Jack Lemmon and he doesn't know it's hers, and the mirror is broken, and she says, the mirror makes me feel how I look, or look how I feel.
Right.
You know what I mean? The undertone being that she feels broken. You know what I mean?
She's broken,
And that was back in the 60s. So they've been doing this forever. And I think that you completely nailed it when you said that there's definitely a play for laughs when it comes to, but also you have to think about the cultural difference. Cameron Diaz lives in a big city, very high paced, high, pace, fast moving life.
Yeah, it's always moving.
With a guy she was with a guy who was a colleague of sort. You know what I mean?
Right.
Whereas Kate Winslet's situation, she lives in a little cottage and works directly with
the person that she's pining over.
Yeah, with Jasper. So that changes their situations a little bit. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And I agree with it.
I think that's the other big thing about the movie is like they live different situations. And so they're different situations but get different tellings of the story. For example, Kate Winslet took herself too seriously all the time, her character, whereas Cameron Diaz took her character way too seriously the whole time. Like that's how she's designed, right? So having fun with her as the audience humanizes her to us.
Right.
Whereas Jasper sees Kate Winslet's character as a joke. So we have to serious her up and give her some gumption and give her a backbone. And there's that big scene near the back end of the movie where she finally stands up to him and grows that backbone, and we see that character development. Meanwhile, we see this hard as stone, unable to cry trailer maker finally break down when she realizes and gets told by Jude Law that he loves her.
Yeah, and you can tell that's something that she's never really experienced before, which is why Edward Burns' character isn't totally wrong because she is a bit emotionally unavailable, and that's because she just hasn't met the right person to make her emotionally available. But that's something that she doesn't learn until she meets the right person to kind of pull that out of her. And I'm glad you say that because there's a different type of confidence that they both need to gain, right? Like you mentioned that Kate Winslet's like Iris, she needs to gain a backbone. She has to get all of her gumption. She needs this sort of confidence. Like, no, like you're not going to be someone's doormat. No one's going to step all over you just to get what they want. And Cameron Diaz's character is outwardly more confident. Like she has, the gravitas of someone that appears to have it all, but really on the inside, she's missing something, and what she's missing is, feeling like she can't find someone that will love her or make her available in that sense to make her heart more open to loving someone else. And those two things I think work really, just different aspects of like needing to find yourself. These two women had to find themselves in a very different way.
Completely agree, and I love that you mentioned that, because there's that running joke of her seeing the trailer when she's in Iris's house, going, "That's why they paid me the big bucks." You can see that confidence there, and that's not something you would see from Iris. I wanted to bring this up because I think this is an interesting concept.
Yeah,
Cameron Diaz comes from a wholly non-sexual relationship, and Kate Winslet's Iris comes from a totally wholly sexual relationship, and the two of them flip-flop. Think about that.
Yeah.
Iris never has sex with Miles, right?
Yeah.
Never. And Amanda completely, is enamored and has sex with Jude Law's character, and it's just they're going into, they needed opposite things, because Graham sort of needed that too. Jude Law's character Graham sort of needed that too. He needed that connection, and I think that's what I mentioned this to a director once when we were talking about romantic comedies. I always look for in a romantic comedy the Walls of Jericho moment. And that comes from It Happened One Night. If you're a film historian, you guys have maybe seen the movie. It's a very old movie, but it's also seen as one of the original romantic comedies. Its fingerprints on cinema are far beyond its 90-year history. But I always look for that Walls of Jericho moment. It's the moment when the characters finally break down and say, "Okay, we're together. Let's do this." And it doesn't matter where in the script that happens, as long as it does happen at some point. You know what I mean?
Right. I agree. And I like what when she does meet him. Well, initially when she meets him, because he's like, "What are you doing here? This is my sister's house." Didn't expect her to be here. Didn't expect her to be there at all, right? But when they do kind of like they actually hang out and they talk, and like he kisses her, and like and then she's kind of like, oh, like she's trying to figure out. By the way, this was listed as one of the problematic scenes today on Screen Rant. Read a whole like 5 scenes that are problematic of the movie, and 5 scenes that make it a holiday classic. And this was one of them. The fact that he drops by pretty drunk, and they are saying if the roles were reversed, like we would have an issue with that. And again, I think it's an issue of nitpicking a bit too much. Cameron Diaz certainly does not take advantage of him. At least that's not how it.
Can I?
At least that's how I would read it. Yeah, go ahead.
Can I just say Screen Rant's full of shit? Okay, he comes over, and the roles did get reversed. And what happened in that movie? Graham literally said, he's like, maybe it's because I'm old fashioned, but I don't make it a habit of sleeping with drunk women. Like it literally was reversed. Like, what are you talking about, Screen Rant?
Yeah, I agree. I personally agree.
Lay off the cocaine, guys.
And I do like though that that kind of moment where like they enjoy their time together, but like it was her time to go, and then she decides like a completely grown, and it's like not something that I love that it's not done with like a ton of dialogue. It's just like she realized she's gonna stay, and then and then he realized that she stayed, and it's kind of like this kind of smile exchange with each other. Really like cool grown up thing for her to be like, hey, like I should see this kind of thing through and see what happens. I actually liked that for her in that moment, because that was a sign that one, I don't think she was just viewing this as someone that was like physically just attractive. Like there was something more to him that she enjoyed, which is why I don't think she would have. You don't just stay in England like that if it's just like, oh, I'm just trying to hook up. I mean, this is for at least someone like her. I think she saw something much more in him for her to like, all right, I'm going to stay and like kind of see how this goes. And I actually like that they gave her that moment of like, all right, well, I was going to, we're doing this because I probably know we're going to see you again. And then she's like, well, wait, no, like maybe there's a reason that our paths cross. Let's see what happens. Now, of course, you mentioned earlier, she worries about being one of the many women in his life because of the conversations that she hears. And I love that, like, that being a twist in the movie that, he's not some Lothario, like, he's a widower and he has 2 young daughters. And that just makes him probably even more likable and to her too, that there's much more. He's dealing with all much bigger things, actually much bigger things than she was dealing with in her life. If she thought that her life was complicated and she had this situation in LA, now she's being this one guy who probably lives a very much more complicated life than her because he's a dad raising 2 kids on his own whose wife passed away. So like she grows by just learning these new things about him, and that pretty good writing too. I mean, that's kind of character development that you want.
And I love that moment where he says, like, he's like, it's nice when I don't have my girls and I don't have to worry about hot cocoa spilled on my jeans or being Mr. Napkin Head. Like, it's a great, it's a great scene. And it's funny because that happens to Iris and Miles as well, because Miles realizes that Shannon Sossman's Maggie might be cheating on him or did cheat on him. And once Iris starts spilling all the beans to Miles, he looks at her and with the vodka in his hand says, maybe you need this more than I do. Because he understands that her situation is much worse. Like, it's such a funny thing. It's funny. I mentioned I'm not a Christmas guy. I don't really like Christmas music at all.
Yeah.
So one would think that I don't really like the soundtrack. I do like the soundtrack to this movie outside of the Christmas music.
Yeah, no, the music is good. And I would even say, I like Christmas music, but I would even say that the Christmas music that's used, it's not overwhelming and it's used pretty sparingly. Because usually in a movie like this, when there is a Christmas tune, like it almost like it turns the volume up in your room by like the way like the music kind of starts. And like it almost feels like in the holiday that it's almost like background noise rather than overpowering a scene, which I guess is why some people I know are like, well, it doesn't really feel like a Christmas music movie. It feels like it's using the aesthetic more than like being a true Christmas movie. But I mean, I think you get hints of like it being a holiday Christmas movie in the score. I mean, Hans Zimmer did the music, and it feels like the kind of happy-go-lucky like music that you would hear in a holiday movie.
But also the produced music is used well too. Like the Killers is used on there when she wakes up in bed. And when Iris wakes up and Jet's "Are You Gonna Be My Girl" starts playing, like, that's great. They steal a page out of Zach Braff's book and they borrow Frau Frau's "Let Go" from Garden State. And then of course Imogen Heap is on the soundtrack twice. Which I was happy about because I'm a big fan of Imogen Heap. And they didn't do hide and seek, which you very well could have. They went for Just for Now, which is perfectly used in the scene that it's in. And obviously there's a lot of scores used because of the fact that Miles is a composer. That scene in the Blockbuster where he just starts randomly doing all of the scores for the movies he's picking up. And then we get a Dustin Hoffman cameo when they get to The Graduate, and that made me laugh and he's just like, I can't believe this.
Of the two relationships, though, I mean, because like the Cameron Diaz and Julia one does feel like it's played more romantic, and the other relationship plays like, at least for me, I felt like they were being more friendly first, and then romance kind of happened. Like when you're watching the movie for the first time, or when you watch it now, like when you look at the two relationships, like do you see? I mean, I guess you can see the spark between Jude Law and Cameron Diaz pretty much right away, but is the point of the Kate Winslet Jack Black one to see the spark right away, or is that the grower? That's the one that you're supposed to watch like play out and develop a bit more over the course of the movie, like over time?
That's actually a really good question. I'm gonna tell you, these are, to use a cooking expression, these two are on opposite heat. Iris and Miles are meant to start as a simmer and then boil, right? And then Graham and Amanda are meant to be full blast on heat and then stay at a nice steady simmer to get to where they're at. And they're the two opposites. It's exactly what we talked about earlier. These two women needed two exact opposite experiences from what they had. And that's what we get as the audience too. So I get where you'd say that they feel friendly, and I think you're right. But I think we as the audience subconsciously realize that Miles and Iris, after the cameras go off, are going to be madly in love with one another at some point.
Yeah, I agree. And I think what also might throw people, I mean, of course, no one is expecting for Kate Winslet's character to get with Arthur by any means when they're watching it. But I think what is interesting is that they too have a really good relationship in the movie, that you're also invested in like this kind of friendship that grows. And I know he's kind of responsible for her too, fighting her kind of confidence, because it's that whole mention of like the leading lady versus the best friend, and like
great line.
Yeah, she's capable of being the leading lady, but she, sees herself as the best friend. And, Arthur is there to also build her confidence. But I think Kate Winslet's character has the benefit of having these two, not necessarily romantic relationships, but like these three like partnerships that kind of happen where that they help her in a sense grow. And like Arthur, of course, her relationship with Arthur is much different than the one she is experiencing with Miles, but like it's still one of my buddies was like, man, like that's all. I'm not saying that her and Arthur have romantic chemistry, but like they definitely like there's something. I mean, I actually like love he actually loved their scenes together even more so than like the scenes that she had with Jack Black. Not that he didn't like them, but like I was kind of looking forward to his interactions with Arthur.
My favorite scene in the whole movie is between them.
Which one's your favorite?
When he goes to pick her, when she goes to pick him up to go to that event, and he looks at her and he says, "You're a knockout." And he looks at her and he says, "You're not doing too bad yourself." And you just love it. You just love those two characters together. And he says, "I haven't been on a date since 1954." And he sees a lot of his deceased wife in Iris.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful
I think that's what
thing.
makes it work. It's a sweet relationship. It's very sweet. And it's something very like because of like the character he's played, there's something like very nicely like old Hollywood about it, which also like kind of gives a spark to like the LA experience that Iris is happening. Like it's very idyllic and very like Hollywood. It's funny because Cameron Diaz's Amanda is living this life and it's such a routine and it's work for her. And for Iris, this is something that she's never truly experienced. So it does feel almost like, it's like the whole, like having the whole movie analogy on her side of, her experience in LA is such a nice thing because it really does feel that way. It really feels like she's kind of living this kind of fairy tale a bit while she's there, and just having the whole discussion about like the meet cute when he first says, like when they first meet each other and like explaining to her what that means. Like, it really is like, like Iris needed that fairy tale part to, she needed that in her life. She needed to feel happy and feel like, feel like she was going to transport to a world that maybe wasn't real, but like, was still nice. And Cameron Diaz's Amanda needs to be like brought down a peg to something that was more conventional and not so fast paced and not so hustle and bustle and that required more work. And they both grew because of those opposite experiences, like, having like these different things thrown at them. Cameron Diaz doesn't think LA, her character doesn't think LA is a fairy tale. Like she's like, yeah, this is just a part of my life. And I love that part. But that's what makes Iris' story so nice and so sweet is you can tell how much she needs it. I think you can tell both characters need the experiences they get, but you can really tell that with Iris. And I think it's because her character was so down on her luck and so downtrodden and so kind of beat up by, this person in her life that made her feel small, that it's really nice to see her gradually become big. And it's, it's rewarding in the end too.
I completely agree with you. I think that it's really, really fun to see Arthur recommend movies that star Irene Dunn and Barbara Stanwyck, and for them, those Hollywood legends, to also help her establish herself as a confident woman. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that that's really interesting. I do want to mention something really cool. Jude Law and Kate Winslet were both coming off of Oscar-worthy performances in their previous films. Jude was in Closer, and of course,
I love Closer.
It's great, right? The most lying is the most fun a girl can have without taking her clothes off.
Her clothes off.
But it's better if you do.
You do it anyway. Yeah. So good.
But it's better if you do. And then you have Kate Winslet coming off of the greatest movie in cinema history, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
No, that's very true. Yeah.
It's insane. And then you see them in these roles and these exact opposite roles. Because one of the things that's so interesting is the English couple, Graham and Iris, are played by two very respected actors. Do you know what I mean? And the American couple, Miles and Amanda, are played by actors who aren't as respected. Do you know what I mean? Cameron Diaz not very respected as far as her acting ability. Whether I agree with that or not, who cares? And then Jack Black was just seen as a goofball.
Yeah.
But
no, that's really true.
They both bring something, and all four of them bring something very different from what their previous past is. And I don't know whether that's Nancy Meyers doing because the script is so sharp and good, or if they just took away from that script something better. But it works. It just works. And the chemistry is it's funny because the chemistry is electric between two of them, and the chemistry is perfect between the other two. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I get you. I kind of feel like they probably each needed something. Coming off of something like Closer and Eternal Sunshine, I would wonder if they just needed something light, and that was probably like that. Probably felt good to have something light.
Yeah.
And like you said, Nancy Myers is another reason. I mean, like I don't think they could have been in any rom-com at this point, like in anyone's rom-com. I think having Nancy Myers' pedigree helps in that regard. But I do think that's interesting that you said that like they were coming off these like two kind of like, of course, like Jude Law wasn't nominated for an Oscar for Closer, but still, it was one of those award season kind of movies and very heavy drama. And of course, Kate Winslet was nominated for Eternal Sunshine, also very heavy, even though there's some levity in it. Yeah, should have won. Also, Jim Carrey should have been nominated too. He was
should have won.
Pretty damn good in that movie. But yeah, it is interesting because like even when you look at the poster of it, like it makes sense in a certain sense for like Cameron Diaz and Jack Black to kind of be there. Now, even if Jack Black was going to be like the wacky best friend in one of these movies, like Cameron Diaz has been in a lot of movies like this, at least like you kind of light romantic fare. Like, she surprised some people with like more serious work with like Being John Malkovich or like her small part in Vanilla Sky. Like she is very capable of being very good. But I think that back in the day, she played to her strengths a lot. And I think studios and people were casting her play to her strengths of like she was known more for being comedic and fun rather than a serious actress. And the opposite of that is that Kate Winslet, I don't recall her being known as someone that was like fun at this time, like or funny in the sense where like it was like I said earlier, it was surprising to kind of see her here. And Jude Law, like he was in the remake of Alfie and like stuff like that. So you saw it was like he was capable of it, but like it really felt like like they kind of just needed to come together in this, and it probably was because of Nancy Myers. I think that'd be the only big reason. I mean, like I said, if anyone else wrote this or directed this, I don't know if even all four of them would have been interested in it, even though like the Jack Black and Cameron Diaz were not known for like always picking the right stuff. I think that she was a big pull in it for all four of them.
Well, it's funny, and I mentioned that, and Cameron was coming off of In Her Shoes, which is still a romantic comedy.
Yeah.
And Jack Black was previous two films were Nacho Libre and Pick a Destiny, so it's like they were coming off of
here so interesting, dude.
That's why I love it. That's why I love that they're in this movie, and that because here's the thing: if you have a scene with Kate Winslet and Jack Black, and you want it to be in a comedy, well, Kate Winslet's going to elevate the acting, but Jack Black's hilarious. So he's going to help bring that comedy. And when you think about a lot, I don't know if it was improv or not, but that scene at the Blockbuster works so much better because he's just improvising. He's just going.
Yeah, he's riffing. Yeah, and he's good at that. And I mean, I wonder like if they kind of played off like because Kate Winslet's more of like maybe classically trained and Jack Black's not so much. But I wonder if they played off of each other in a way where he kind of learned from her and she kind of learned from him. And because it does seems like so. I mean, that was the one thing my friends. I remember when the movie did come out, even though I didn't see it in theaters. That was the one thing my friends kept pointing out was just like, judging from this trailer, it looks like they're supposed to get together, and I don't see how that is realistic at all. And I guess I can see that, seeing it without knowing what the situation was. But I mean, two capable performers made it work, and I think she being a more capable performer than him, but he has his strengths too, and I think that's why they're more like I said, their relationship works too in a very different way than Cameron Diaz and Jude Law's does.
That's exactly it. Think about it. What is Rupert Sewell's character? Very self-serious, very handsome, traditionally handsome, right? Jack Black, not traditionally handsome, not serious at all, but charming and funny.
Yeah,
and the opposite of Rupert Sewell's character. So it goes back to the entire theme of this movie, which is opposite attractions. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's maybe why Miles was so intriguing for her. And on top of the fact that Miles wasn't manipulative and just genuinely cared about her and cared about Arthur, who she's quickly becoming friends with. Like caring about people. And that scene where we're at the Hanukkah party, you can see immediately that Miles is a good guy.
Yeah. I think too what's important there with their relationship is that there's no ulterior motives, and there's no like I'm keeping you close because X, Y, and Z. Like he had no ulterior motives with her. He liked her as a person and he enjoyed her company, and that's all he really needed. And I think
it
that's
doesn't hurt that she looks like Kate Winslet too.
Yeah, that probably doesn't hurt at all either. No, not at all. But I think that she wasn't used to that either. Though she wasn't used to being with someone that didn't have some ulterior motive. And and if you're looking at Cameron Diaz's Amanda, is that she? I kind of feel like like I hate to say this because it seems like a stereotype, but I feel like she was used to being the man in the relationship where it was kind of like she kept her feelings at bay all the time, and she needed someone to break that. And it took a widower with 2 young kids for that to
who is very emotional. He cries at movies and he cries all the time.
They go a long way to not make Jude Law's character like a good looking stereotype. And that is important too, because of course you have someone that looks like Jude Law, you're going to assume that he is going to be a good-looking stereotype. And the good thing about Jude Law being a good actor is that he can play more than that. He's not a victim of his looks. I mean, it's just he's capable of being much more than that. But the good thing about casting someone that looks like him is that you get to have the whole kind of bait and switch a bit, where it gets I wonder who this guy really is, and really this guy's just a good person. And
if he weren't as handsome as he was, that whole faux Casanova angle that they're trying to trick us with doesn't work.
Yeah, it doesn't at all. Because I think they make that joke where she says something about kissing a stranger, and he says oh, I do it all the time, and it's just it's supposed to be funny, kind of ha kind of thing. Once you learn who he is, you kind of realize that he's pretty facetious and that he's playing around, and he's much more, and I think he's much more than wanting to be a Lothario, because he's raising 2 girls on his own, so he can't really be necessarily a player. Because that's not to set a bad example for his 2 young girls. So that's that. It's a really, I love that there's layers. There's so many layers there.
And the little girl mentions it. She's like, we never have adult women in the house. I like it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think he could. I forgot. And I think that's because he mentions about how he's afraid to kind of introduce women to them. And that's a very honest thing for a lot of people in that position, that it would be hard, especially if you had their mother who passed away, your wife passed away, or whatever, and that is why you're on your own like that. It would be really hard to introduce a new woman into your life and their lives. So that's another important part of the story that I'm glad that they actually give actual service to. It's not just a character point and that gets ignored. It's it's something that is very important to him and becomes important to Amanda too, as to not to mess that up or want to be in a position to mess that up. Can she have a position in his life, with first she was worried that these were going to be 2 women that were just random women that he was sleeping around with, and now it's oh, this is what this really is. And now she has to realize, kind of come to realization of, oh, can I be available to this too, after she thinks it's something that it's not.
And she's, to her credit, to Amanda's credit as a character, she's more than open to it, because she realizes that this dude is more than what she thought he was. And that changes her mind about that whole situation. And I think that's such a cool little, and it's never expressed directly. That's what's beautiful about the way that Cameron Diaz plays the role. And again, that's why I'm going to give her a ton of credit, because that's not something she would have been able to pull off usually.
Yeah. So is this the best thing that she's been in for you? I mean, I'm assuming that for you.
I really like her. I really like her in Bad Teacher.
Okay. Also plays her strengths in that.
And being that I'm a big Spike Jonze fan, being John Malkovich is my favorite movie of hers.
Okay.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
I think it's her best performance, and I'm a Spike Jonze fanboy, so yeah.
I have this thing with her sometimes. I mean, I think because I feel like she's so natural though. There's actors who you can tell they're acting. I just feel like she's just naturally pretty good. We know that she had retired for a really long time. I know she's coming out with a couple of movies within the next year or so, and when I watch something that she's in, because she was in so much, in a very there was, I feel like there wasn't a weekend where we didn't get something that she was in. Since she was gone for so long, when I do see her in something now, I kind of miss her, because it's she's been gone for a bit, and you kind of miss the little things that made her cool. She could be pretty funny, she's pretty likable, she's very endearing, depending on what she's in.
She has really big eyes that are so expressive, and I miss that about her. I also miss the risk when she took risks because
Yeah.
Coming off of There's Something About Mary, she could have done The World Was Her Oyster, and she did Spike Jonze's Being John Malkovich, where she
Yeah.
plays down her looks, she plays down her attractiveness. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I like it when she takes risks, and I think she should do it more often.
I think she should too, and I think at this point, her coming out of retirement because she took time off to like be with her family, raise her kids, like that's very admirable, and she should have done that if she felt like she needed to do that. And like she talked with her husband, like he was like, "Hey, like you took all this time off for us, like let's go back and do you." I kind of hope. I mean, like she has a movie coming out with Jamie Foxx that feels very old school. Cameron Diaz, Jamie Foxx, like it feels like something she used to do back in the day. And I guess like if that's your first trip back to doing this, that would be a very safe thing to do. Kind of like ease your way back into it, see if I want to do this again. But I do hope if she continues to do more movies and she feels comfortable doing more movies, like having them and to raise a family, that she continues to take chances that you mentioned. Like, because you talk about like Being John Malkovich, I think that's a good example. I think her small part of Vanilla Sky is actually pretty good. I think she does a really good job in that. And not in a lot of scenes, not a ton of screen time, but she definitely makes an impression in that. Gangs of New York is not really. I feel like that's more of a writing the female character problem than her problem, but that's like just be
Scorsese can't write women characters. That's just his fault.
But like she's very capable of a lot more than she gives it. So I do hope that coming out of this retirement era that she does some more of that. Not saying that we won't, we'll still go for like some holiday related stuff. If she wants to like, be cutesy and have a good time, like she can do both. And I think her career was like kind of on that level for a little bit, but she, I think for the most part, most people view her for things like this. They like see her as like the funny kind of like, quirky kind of person. Oh, you're on mute. Sorry. There you go.
Just wanted her to go do movies so he could go on tour with Good Charlotte again.
Yeah, he's like, I got to make money too, man.
He's like, lifestyles of the rich and famous. I'm living it now. Damn it.
Yeah, right. All right, so I'm gonna read a couple more of these. Even though it's Screen Rant, we mentioned that you're not a fan, but I still interesting. I'll see if you think like some of these things are problematic or they're full of shit.
Yeah.
And then they mentioned some things that are like making a Christmas classic. So we'll see. So they said problematic today. Amanda punches Ethan. The film doesn't start off in a great note as far as representing healthy relationships go, with Amanda, played by Cameron Diaz, punching her boyfriend in the face when he insults her. This isn't in self-defense either, but rather a moment that is clearly framed in a way that encourages the viewer to laugh at it as if it's okay for a partner to abuse the other, so long as it's a woman throwing the punches.
Bullshit.
All right. I think it's played for comedy, and like I don't know.
First of all, it's played for comedy, and she's pissed off that he just cheated on her, and it's ex-boyfriend, not boyfriend.
True. Yeah. True. Yeah.
Like, what is wrong with them? That's a terrible take. Bad take.
Thanks. Strike one. All right. Christmas classic. They say I feel like they're gonna get the Christmas classic ones mostly right. It says The Cozy Cottage. One can't deny the comfort that comes from watching anybody do anything in Iris's cozy cottage, located ideally in the English countryside. It's a wonder Iris doesn't want to spend Christmas there, but the pleasure all the same for her to swap and allow the viewer to watch Amanda enjoy all the festive atmosphere has to offer. I do like that Amanda doesn't like it right away. Like I love that it's opposite. Like it sounds like Dillig on the website or when she's messaging her, but when she gets there, it's not an environment that she's used to being in.
It's just small for her, yeah.
Yeah, but cozy cottages with the snow. I mean, it does visually represent Christmas, so I'll give him that one.
I'll give him that one.
All right, problematic. The leading lady conversation. We kind of brought this up earlier, but Iris's friendship with Arthur is just beginning and quickly sneaking its way into viewers' hearts when he makes the comment about Iris, played by charmingly Kate Winslet, acting like a best friend character in the movie when she should be acting like the leading lady. He says it's meant to be a compliment, but the moment loses power because it asserts a toxic value of women, implying that those who fit a supposed best friend personality shouldn't love themselves just as much as those that men perceive to be leading ladies.
If you took that too literally, you're an idiot. It's an encouragement moment from Arthur, who's an old man. He's giving her an analogy that works best, that he understands. Like, listen, I know that I see more to you than you see in yourself. I don't think there's anything toxic about that.
I don't either. And you know what's interesting? When I was reading this, I was actually watching that scene as I was reading it.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I'm not hearing what they're hearing because it's a very like, it feels like an encouraging conversation rather than something that devalues her as a person. You know, he's trying to build her up, saying like, you are clearly a leading lady, but you view yourself as a best friend. And
you want to know what's funny about that? What was Cameron Diaz's first role in a rom-com?
oh, is that what you consider what the like her first movie?
Well, first rom-com role was as Julia Roberts' best.
Oh,
friend.
Julia Roberts, My Best Friend's Wedding. Yeah, yeah.
In My Best Friend's Wedding, she was her best friend's wife or fiance.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
she was the best friend, not literally in that sense, but she was the best friend.
Yeah.
And now she's the leading lady.
There we go. All right. So
Bullshit
I'm not gonna go with problematic. All right. Christmas classic, an unlikely romance. So many Christmas classics center around romances, and more often than not, the satisfaction of the romantic tale lies particularly on the fact that the match is an unlikely one. In this case, there are two matches, but the one more unlikely than the other might be between Iris and Miles. These characters are very quirky and odd, each in their own way. So when they finally come together, it's almost a Christmas miracle.
Yes.
All right, they're really good at the Christmas takes more than like what's considered problematic today.
That's because they're using too much modern sensibility to look at these scenes, and they're trying to find things that are wrong. And that's what happens in the modern sense. We, as the viewer of movies, are looking for negative things all the time, and I don't understand why we do this.
Yeah, I agree with you. All right, problematic. This is going to be an interesting one. Graham's bad behavior goes unacknowledged. It says Graham spends the night with Amanda and then the next morning shares that he rarely calls women back, saying this offhandedly as if it's just a personality quality that can't be helped. When he emphasizes that Amanda is someone he would actually call back, it sends a message that men who treat women badly only do so because they aren't the one, and this is okay. Encouraging women to think that they are treated poorly, it's because they aren't special enough, like Amanda.
No,
I don't think that's either.
No,
it's so bad.
He's joking first. Secondly,
yeah, he is joking.
Secondly, he's trying to be charming, and he's also being honest with her. And he even says that he's like, honesty, damn, that's a thing I'm not used to. Like,
exactly.
He appreciates her candidness because he's also being equally candid, even though he's making a joke. Like, again, they're 0 for 3 right now. 0 for 4 technically because the other one was bullshit too.
Yep. They're gonna. I wonder if someone else wrote the Christmas stuff. The Christmas stuff is probably just easy to identify. It says an emphasis on giving, which makes it a Christmas classic. There is a generosity in the movie that feels very much in the Christmas spirit. Amanda and Iris switch houses in a flash, choosing to put their trust in one another and hope for the best. Iris offers to help Arthur for no reason but to be of help and to enjoy his companionship. Such instances create a feeling of merriment and goodwill amongst people. I would agree with that.
Yeah, that's totally fair. Totally fair.
That's actually the case of in most Christmas movies where it's just like I think what you said, like if you're ever thinking like why they swap so quick and why like you're really looking at the wrong things if you're looking at like the logistics of it would be really like problematic and time consuming to like travel that far in a day. That's not what you should be paying attention to. I agree. Problematic. Iris dates her boss. So many iconic Christmas movies, such as Love Actually, feature moments between the boss and the worker, an issue that mars the joy that could otherwise have been had in the romances. Iris had a relationship with and then continues to be involved with and manipulated by her boss. The cruelty of the romance is explored in the film, but the particular issues with her boss having dated her in the first place are not.
I think that's fair. I don't think it's problematic so much as it is correct.
Yeah, it just happens. Yeah, that's what happens when you date your boss. Yeah.
So we'll give you that one.
Christmas classic, humor and heartbreak. The two key parts of most Christmas movies are humor and heartbreak. The viewers need the downs to appreciate the ups, as with most things in life. And even when one looks at children's Christmas movies, heartbreak can be found there, be it romantic or otherwise. However, the humor and feeling of redemption always lift the spirits and make the holidays feel even more important. And the holiday features both. So yeah, I can agree with that too.
Yeah, again, that's pretty easy to identify.
Yeah. This one we did mention. I'll read what they say into earlier. It's about Amanda seducing Graham while he's wasted. Amanda and Graham meet when Graham stumbles upon to her door extremely drunk, not realizing that Iris is no longer at the home. This is the moment when Graham should either leave or Amanda should offer to call him a cab if he's unable to go on his own. But it says she chooses to make a pass at him, knowing that he's completely out of it. consent isn't something that's only relevant to women. It's important for everybody. And Amanda hitting on a man who she knows likely won't remember the interaction is very uncomfortable to watch. I don't think actually it's played that uncomfortably to watch, but
No, and also it's referenced the next morning. He says, "I wasn't that drunk."
yeah, exactly. He remembers their interactions with each other. I don't.
And he even acknowledges that her ex-boyfriend's incorrect about her prowess in bed.
Yeah, that's true. And then she is like, so like he's very surprised when she mentions that like, she apparently isn't that good in bed. And he's like, well, I don't really believe that. I mean, they're having more fun interacting with each other rather than I think they read that scene wrong. So I mean, I guess it's not really. This isn't a big deal. I'm done reading their stuff, by the way. But you have 4 very very popular big leads. This isn't the first time we've had a movie where there's a lot of there's main characters like this where they don't all interact together. And in the case of this movie, it doesn't happen until having all 4 of them together until the very end of the movie. I know some people that watch it like oh, they wish they could be together more, but like the story just don't like allow for that to happen at all. And I do think that the interaction that they have at the end is perfectly fine and works. And honestly, even though like Kate Winslet and Cameron Diaz don't actually share physical scenes with each other until then, you kind of get that there is some kind of like they've had interactions before that doesn't feel like 2 strangers just meeting for the first time. Really, I think they all do a good job of like making that final moment between all of them really work.
One of the funniest scenes in the movie is them interacting when they're on the phone. Like,
oh yeah, I love it. Yeah, that scene is great. That scene is great. I always wonder with scenes like that how that. I mean, if they are when they're filming, if they were together, or if they just kind of just like one side's being filmed on one end, and the other side's filmed another time. But even whatever the case is, like that interaction is really fun between the two. Probably one of the better comedic moments for Kate Winslet and Cameron Diaz. They play off each other really well in that scene.
Yeah,
really well in that scene.
Completely agree. I love it. I don't know where the hell Graham's going on that train, but yeah.
That is true. Oh, I missed one about them saying that makes it a Christmas classic is that the movie is a celebration of misfits. They said holiday films love misfits. Just look at the legendary tale of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. There's something about a person not fitting in with the crowd that becomes important at Christmas. Like because by the end of the story, the misfit is used to reveal just how important community and love for one's neighbor really are. The characters in the holiday, especially the lead women, are meant to be somewhat oddities, causing them to run away from their homes for the holidays. But by the end, they have found communities that embrace them, as well as, most importantly, acceptance of themselves. And there's nothing quite as Christmassy as that. And it's probably true.
Sure, we'll go with that.
They do find themselves in the end. I guess that is important. They do find the best versions of themselves by the end of the movie.
Yeah, but the whole misfits angle, sure, why not?
Yeah, I think that's a pretty far-fetched one. Is there anything else you want to mention about the holiday? Anything we didn't cover that you want to like mention?
I want to say that if you enjoy the holiday, you can check out a non-Christmas version of it with Crazy Stupid Love. Very similar.
Oh, very good comparison. Because I do actually love Crazy Stupid Love a lot.
Yeah.
I remember when I first saw it, like I remember a lot of it. I was like, this feels like a really wacky sitcom, but a really well written, wacky, bigger budget sitcom when I first saw it.
Yep.
Yeah, it is a good version. It is kind of similar to this, but without the holiday angle. So I know like when we do cover movies on here, we try to give them a score, and whatever you would want to give it, whether you can do the whole letterbox 1 star to 5, you can do letter grade, you can do however you want to grade the movie. What would you rate?
We do letters on our website.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm gonna give it a B-. I very much enjoy the movie. It's not perfect. It's nowhere near perfect, but it is hilarious and it is heartfelt and its heart is in the right place. And I think that's really important when you watch a romantic comedy. And sure, it has all of the tropes of a romantic comedy, but I don't care. I'm having a great time watching these characters, and that's the best you can hope for. So we would go B-, so probably a 3.5 to 4 on Letterboxd.
There you go. I'll go with the letter grade because you did too. I would give it a B. I'm gonna go a little bit higher. I find it completely enjoyable. It's part of my Christmas movie rotation now. now that everyone's like, hey, why wasn't it before? Like I was like when I first saw it, I was like, yeah, it probably should be. It makes you feel all the right feelings. I know some people are like me mentioned earlier, are turned off by how long it is, but it's paced really well. It doesn't feel long. It doesn't feel like it drags. And I think because it's bouncy between the two stories, that's why it always feels interesting and why it's always moving. It doesn't stay on one story too long over the other. Like each one is serviced pretty well. And I don't know. I think it does all the things that a holiday movie needs to do. And like I said, to everyone saying that it's not a Christmas movie or a holiday movie, it is. And like you said earlier, all the other holidays are represented here too, as well. So, it's not dripping with Christmas aesthetic. I won't say that it is. And even Jude Law kind of mentioned that, how some people today when I was watching something that he was on, they mentioned that it doesn't really necessarily exude that, but he was like, it gives you that feeling like they should make you feel good, they should make you happy. And I think I think that's why people gravitate towards it. I think that's why it continues to endure. I mean, it probably endures more now than it did when it first came out in theaters. I think it took a little bit for it to catch on. Probably, once it came out on like, home video and all that stuff, it was able to really catch on with audiences and stuff. And I'm glad it did. I think it is a true classic. I think it will kind of stay one as well. At least, a holiday movie classic. So I'm excited that you picked it and wanted to talk about it. So
I'm glad to have been here to talk about it. I also included alongside The Apartment, which is a pseudo Christmas New Year's movie, and that's a romantic comedy as well. I put it alongside those type of films as ones that I watch on repeat. I saw this on Amazon Prime. I do have a DVD copy of it as well. So you guys should definitely check it out on Prime Video. And yeah, like I love the movie. I mean, our website is sponsored by Just Watch. So if you need to know where to watch stuff, go check out Just Watch. They'll tell you where everything is. Letterboxd also has it built in, so
nice. And like I will use it as like, because we like to link like where can you watch whatever movie that we're covering. So I will do that with Just Watch and link, see where they can watch the holiday. Before I had to dig deep to find my copy of it. And because everything's kind of disorganized, can't really tell from here, but movies are all out of order because there's a bunch of them right now. And I had to dig deep for it, so I was like, okay, I don't feel like looking for it. I'm gonna see where it's streaming, and it's not on like Peacock or Netflix or anything. I don't know if it ever was on Netflix or something at one point. I feel like maybe it might have been on one of the streaming services at one point. But yeah, Prime Video is probably the best one to see it on now, unless you want to support physical media and buy a copy on DVD. I don't know if it's even on Blu-ray. I have a DVD, so I'm not sure.
I have a DVD. I don't know.
Yeah. But either way, it should be in your rotation. If you're looking for a nice, light romantic comedy with 4 very interesting characters written by someone, Nancy Myers, we mentioned. If you haven't, it's not just this movie. You can go down her filmography and find a lot of interesting things that she's wrote or written. And she is a superb writer. And like you said, she writes characters first. So I think that's what's important about her style. So yeah, definitely one you should check out. And man, I know you mentioned it earlier, but if you want to say again where everyone can find you, another plug in.
Yeah, of course. I'm always willing to plug my own stuff. Of course, you can follow us on all social medias. That's Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Blue Sky, even now at Film Snob Reviews. Our YouTube channel is Film Snob Reviews. Check out our podcast, Snobcast, anywhere you get your podcasts. We just did November's episode. It'll be out tomorrow or the next day. We're going to be talking about organized films involving organized crime. So,
nice. There we go.
Gangsters and gangsters galore. And that one. And for December, we don't know yet, but it's not going to be Christmas. So there's that. But check out all our stuff. We try our very best to, be a diverse group of people, because that's what we are as critics. None of us are. We only have one critic who's a cis white man. So it's nice
there you go.
to have the diverse voices that we do. We're very lucky that we get to experience that. And guys, check out Latin American cinema. I'm a Hispanic guy myself. I think that Latin American cinema needs more support. Go check out movies from not just Mexico. Go check out movies from El Salvador, Honduras, Guatemala. They're all making incredible stuff, and you guys should all check it out. That's
very, very important note to end on. I thought that's really good. We don't talk about. I would even feel guilty that we don't talk about that enough on here. Something that we really want to change next year on the show is like really expanding what we watch and what we talk about. And cinema is not just one thing. There's so many diverse voices out there, and I'm glad you said that. That was really important. So thank you for that.
Of course, I'm just glad you had me on. I'm glad to have been here, and I hope everybody enjoys the episode. And if you haven't seen The Holiday, go watch it. It's great.
Yeah, it's very good. And thank you for being on the first episode that we have for our holiday Christmas launch on Back to the Blockbuster. It won't be all Christmas rom-coms, but it's part of the holiday aesthetic. We had to talk about love and Christmas and mix it all together. So glad this was the first one. If you want to check out Back to the Blockbuster, you can find us wherever you get your podcasts, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Good Pods. Those are all great. But Playlist is our podcast network, and they have the Playlist Studio app where you can also find our show as well. So if you want to listen to us there, you can. We do have a YouTube page as well if you need to subscribe to us. We are going to be doing a lot more with that page after the end of the year, once the new year hits. More focused on that once Jackson gets back. So until then, if you want to subscribe and be ready for when a lot of that stuff drops, you can do that as well. Just look at Back to the Blockbuster. And don't forget to check out William and Film Star Reviews. All that will be linked at the bottom of the description of this episode, so you'll be able to find his stuff as well. Until next time, William, also, whenever you want to be on, if you ever see our stuff on social media, we're like shouting out, like we need a guest for a movie, do not hesitate to reach out. Always welcome to come back. And thank you for coming on for this, and I greatly appreciate it.
Oh, yeah, and you should check out my previous episode where we talked about Zodiac. That shit was fun.
Oh, yeah, that was fun. And it's funny, I just got that on 4K now, so I actually haven't watched it yet because I've been too busy, but it really doesn't, really didn't invoke the whole Thanksgiving holiday spirit, so I haven't really been in the mood to watch it, but I will watch it soon. But yeah, until next time, guys, it's been another episode of Back to the Blockbuster, and we'll catch you later. Peace.